Welcome to Manufacturing Talk Radio, your everything manufacturing podcast, with host and veteran manufacturing industry expert Lewis Weiss and co-host Amy Niklas. Make sure to check out our catalog of 800 previous shows on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you're listening. Now, let's get into the episode.
Good day, everyone. This is Lou Weiss, which you knew already from Manufacturing Talk Radio. I'm here today with Steve Miller, who's the committee chair for the ISM Business Services Committee and Report. How's that? It's a good thing you don't have to wear that across your T-shirt. Everyone, I just wanted to let you know that if you like the show, please give us a like. And I just wanted to mention also that we've hit a milestone. We're just about 2.5 million views.
Wow, that's great.
Not bad for not being 60 Minutes or Bloomberg. So we're very pleased with that. So let's keep those numbers moving up. Steve Miller, I'd like if you could, because I received a couple of emails within the last week or two, from audience members who asked, how does the ISM process the survey, or how do you arrive at the numbers and statistics that fills up a 9-page report? So if you could give us a minute or two of that, and then we can get to the report.
Sure, happy to. So the ISM organization has had the manufacturing report and the services report for quite some time. The services is still the baby. We started gathering data in '97, so just about 30 years old now, or just past 30 years old, actually. So
happy anniversary.
Yes. In terms of reporting, the sub-indexes, we've done that, but in terms of the consolidated index, that just started at the beginning of '98. So 2 more years for everybody to light candles and celebrate 30. What they do is they go out to several hundred individuals that are all in supply management roles. So that's one of the things that's distinctive about our survey, is that we're looking at actual business activity rather than forecasts of business activity. And we ask some very simple questions that allow people to disclose without violating confidential information. So they say, this month versus last month, across 10 different indexes, is activity higher, the same, or lower than it was? Are supplier deliveries faster, the same, or slower than they were last month? So we can do a month-over-month comparison of what's happening in terms of the health of the services industry and the health of the manufacturing industry. There are 18 industries that we break the services report into in terms of survey respondents, so that we can see which ones are growing, which ones are shrinking for each of the indexes. That information is all put together and provided to me on a monthly basis. I review the data, develop my conclusions based on that information, review that with several people in ISM to see if they see it differently or the same. We finalize the report, and then we release that on a monthly basis at 10 a.m. Eastern time on the 3rd business day of each month.
One of the things that I really like about both this report and the manufacturing report is the comments from responders. I find that that's very insightful. It goes beyond the numbers. It sort of gets involved with the emotionality of the individual who's giving the information. So I find those comments really quite helpful. That said, let's take it to the video, as they used to say. Good report. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, so the 5th month in a row that we've seen the 12-month average increase. So we're at 54.5 this month. And so we're continuing to see a solid growth in the services industry or services sector. and we're seeing that growth rate increase over time. So after 3 years of seeing it drop year after year in terms of a 12-month average, we're actually seeing that increase. So very positive in terms of strength. We saw growth in new orders. We saw growth in business activity. We saw continued expansion, which means slower supplier deliveries, but not at the same level as we saw last month. Mm-hmm. So a little bit of a surprise. We expected to see some of the petroleum-related commodity limitations or shortages potentially impacting overall deliveries. We're not seeing that in that index increase. And then employment was the big kind of disappointment. When you look at increased business activity and increased new orders, you'd hope that would flow through to employment like it did to inventory, where we saw a significant increase, the highest level we've been in the history of the.
Let's talk about that just for a moment, about the inventories. I mean, it was like almost a 9.5% increase. Is that a good indicator of what's coming down the road in terms of production and sales and so on?
So short answer is yes, in that it's we're seeing or there's confidence that demand will continue.
Right.
So certainly the inventory number shows two things. One is it shows we've got confidence that demand is going to continue, and I think looking back on the last 12 months, certainly a good sense for that. The other thing that probably points to employment together with inventory is that we saw a lot of commentary that demand for many industries is seasonality related. And so that may give you reluctance to get more permanent resources like employees,
right,
while still investing in inventory to be able to meet demand and work overtime and be able to do that. And Lou, I'd say the third piece is that we saw commentary last month that people were buying ahead to avoid price increases related to transportation and petroleum-related product price increases. And so we're probably seeing those new orders coming into inventory.
Let's talk about the tariff issue. Is that presenting much of an issue? I'm reading some of your respondent comments, and that seems to be of an ongoing concern.
Yeah, it is, but certainly not at the level. Now that'll change in June's report after the 10%, announcement of the 10% in tariffs across 60 countries that happened. It was either last night or this morning, but much lower than it was, and nothing close to what we're seeing in terms of petroleum, gasoline, diesel, transportation kind of cost increases. And it wasn't much of a, when you saw from April of last year through 2025, we really didn't see a significant impact from tariffs, other than we saw the prices paid index go into the 60s and stay in the 60s all year.
Is that an indicator perhaps that the actual manufacturers or service providers absorbed some of that tariff cost themselves?
Absolutely. And we saw that in our semi-annual report, is that's what many services companies were intending to do, either over a 6-month period or permanently absorbing those.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. By the way, I just want to mention for our audience, June 22nd, we're having a special show with you. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So twice a year, we come out with a semi-annual supply chain forecast for manufacturing and for services. It releases on the 17th of June. And then on the 22nd of June, we'll be having some social media activity to be able to talk about what we think the implications are going forward for the next 12 or the next 6 months, as well as looking back at the last 6 months. How did we actually perform versus what we had forecast 6 months ago?
So everybody put that on your calendars, the 17th of June and the 22nd of June. And we'll sure remind you about it also, because I found that those two events have been quite meaningful. Not only that, but your forecasting and prognosticating was pretty much on, except for a couple of surprises thrown out by Washington, D.C. But
It's we find over and over again that supply management people really do have a good insight into what's
yeah,
happening
yeah.
in the activity within the business.
It's almost like you're manipulating the system.
Well, we listen well. I'll say we listen well.
So to continue, Steve, I'm sorry. So regarding the imports, there was a rather significant drop there.
Yeah, so still an expansion. I think 4 months in a row where we've seen export orders as well as import activity at a 50 or above. So still seeing good activity there, but significant drop. And Lou, I would attribute that to the same order ahead behavior that we heard about last month. Is that we probably eased off on that a bit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So the pricing seems to be fairly consistent at the higher level, month over month.
Yes, yes, unfortunately, and we saw the petroleum-related products costs. They were talked about last month as we're not seeing those come into the supply chain yet, and they hit the commodities up in price this month. So definitely seeing those flow through, in addition to transportation and diesel and gasoline and fuel and energy.
In view of what's going on and all of that's going on, what's in short supply?
So it looks like a lot of data center related products.
A lot of what?
Data center related products.
Mm-hmm.
So we're seeing memory components, we're seeing computers and computer related, we're seeing breakers, and then in addition to seeing some of the tariff impacts for like high voltage switches and that type of thing. We've been seeing that over the last 6 months. But there was one concern raised that I thought was important to add in the commentary, is that a wholesale industry respondent was saying they're starting to see constraints on piping for data center construction activity. So we're already hearing in the news utility related and more local politics related concerns around water impacts and energy usage and energy cost impacts related to data centers and AI. Now we're actually starting to see supply component shortages for that activity. So wait and see how significant that becomes. But what we don't, from an economic standpoint, what we don't need to see is any type of depression of that activity, because it seems to be the wind under the wings of the economy at the moment.
I think the water issue, which no one's really talking much about, at least not in the mainstream news, but I think water is going to become a significant issue coming, down the road.
Yeah, it's a very complicated situation on the local data center activity. It doesn't seem like they've worked out all of the impacts and how to manage that. You go to a company like Intel. Intel's impact in local communities is they actually improve and increase clean water availability, because they make that a core part of their strategy. Is where they go, they're going to clean dirty water and then they're going to release clean water into the local community. So hopefully we'll see more of that type of environmental and social responsibility or economic responsibility.
I hope that works out. We find out sometimes after the fact that, oops, it didn't quite work out the way we thought, but one can only hope.
Yes.
Steve, I know you've got a hard stop, so we're going to give you a moment to give us some last few comments. A conclusion, and if you wish to prognosticate a little bit, be my guest.
Okay, that's great. So I think the services economy has been very resilient, and we're seeing, we recovered more than 50% of the drop last month in new orders, stayed in expansion territory all of the months, but we're back halfway to the 60.6 that we were 2 months ago. Mm-hmm. Very good sign from a new order perspective, in that's what really drives our activity. But what we're also seeing is a drop in the number for the backlog of orders at the same time as we're seeing weakness in employment. So keep your eyes open to maybe more commentary around AI and AI impact, and whether that's starting to creep into the employment numbers, because something is creating that productivity that's having us okay not backfilling positions, okay putting hiring freezes out there while we're seeing increase in business activity and new orders. So overall message strong. I think you and I joked about it before, in the old quote of, a recession is when your neighbor loses his job, a depression is when you lose yours. So fingers crossed that this what people are talking about as seasonality actually is robust demand that we'll see in Q3, and then we'll see those employment numbers follow. That would be good news.
Yeah, I'm glad that you refreshed and brought back that old joke about losing jobs, because the young people who are listening never heard that joke before.
Yeah. That's true.
So you're like the new comedian.
I got a million of them.
All right, Steve, thank you very much. And perhaps next month we can touch on a little bit more about AI. We're going to be doing a whole series of AI episodes. So perhaps from your perspective, we can talk about AI.
I'm happy to. Yeah, I'd love to talk with you.
Okay. Thank you all. And don't forget, hit that like button. And if you don't like the show, let us know and we'll fix it. Or we'll have you on to tell us why you don't like the show. But we know you like the show. You love us. Thanks all. Till next time.
Thanks again for joining us on another episode of Manufacturing Talk Radio with hosts Lewis Weiss and Amy Nicholas. Before you head out, make sure to subscribe and leave us a review. For more information about the show and the manufacturing industry, head over to mfgtalkradio.com. That's mfgtalkradio.com.